Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom Entrepreneurs on November edition, 15th of November. Today, got a very special guest, Shenan Charania, and he'll be talking about, well, MamaJ said a little story in the thing, but he'll be talking about whatever he wants to talk about. And I'm sure we'll be blown away with whatever he's got to say. And it's guest hosted by myself, MamaJ, and Omar Wilson.
Thank you very much for having me, inviting me to join you. I think last time I joined you was 2018.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's when we ran the weekend together here, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
And I was sending you recent messages going, do you remember this? And do you remember that?
Oh, no, it was amazing.
Yeah, I learned so much.
Me too. Yeah, it was amazing to do a retreat in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Amazing on many levels.
Yeah.
I remember as well, Shenan, I don't know if you remember, but I think it might have been one of your first retreats or early, wasn't it? And I was really trying to give you space and follow your lead. And do you remember?
Yeah.
And yeah. It was okay. It was okay, wasn't it? The first day was okay.
Yeah.
And then we were staying, myself and Rob were staying at some good friends in Vancouver, and I remember waking up and sitting in their garden that morning thinking, I need to channel Sid. I need to calm down. It's like it's okay, but it's not the feeling that I'm used to. I need to channel Sid. And I got the message loud and clear, you need to be you. And that was what was wrong, was that I was so busy trying to follow you, I wasn't being me.
Yeah.
And I turned up that day and I said to you, are you okay if I just do me and you do you? And you were like, yeah, of course, yeah. And then we were on fire.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
I totally remember that. You know, it was more clear in reflection for me how the feeling wasn't the thing for me, right? For me, it was like, I need to understand this and lead from understanding, and the feeling was not valued or respected as much as I obviously do now. And I think there's a correlation for that same exact story about the feeling from me being the next weekend after, when we went to 3B school together. And I think I texted you this, right? That they started the school and 20 minutes later, Elsie's like, shall we break for an hour and a half? And I'm like, are you serious? We just started.
Yeah.
And I said that to you, like, what is this? And you laughed and you just said, just go with it.
I know.
And again, in reflection, it was that I was not paying attention to the feeling, really. I was trying to gather information and lead from information. So yeah, I'm glad you took that second day and made that weekend really nice for us.
It was beautiful. And it's an ever evolving lesson, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that to because you can go so far with information, it can be a little trickery. You can go so far with it, and all our lives we've learned, the more you know, the more the more understanding you've got, the more you can share, the more expert you are. And it's almost the opposite to that. It's the letting go of all of that and relaxing into that space and that feeling. And yeah.
For me, it sounds like when, like, even try to give somebody something is form, and that's not what the principles are about. It's not about form. It's about giving somebody a platform to create their own form, and just a wiser form. So it's like, when you give somebody instructions, you kind of, there's form on it. You want them to do as you intended them to do. And I realized when they kind of slip out of what you think they're intended to do, it messes with your own brain. And where it just comes from that natural wisdom of no form and allowing that person to create their own form with that. I feel like that's where the power comes. That's what I can hear you guys talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I keep learning the layers that reveal themselves to me around, you know, my blind spots there, like how much control I want or have, or illusory, you know, have, that I don't know that I'm trying to control. And then after it drops and drops and drops and drops, you really start to see it more.
It would be really interesting for people who don't know you, maybe to hear a little bit about your journey and I mean, so that lesson that we learned together is probably over and over in your journey as well, I think.
The feeling?
Yeah, leaning into that, and then thinking you got to do more, and then leaning into that again.
Yeah, sure. I can talk a bit about that. I have spoken about my story from so far back. I think 2016 is the first time I really came out with it, and I wasn't really oriented to the principles. So it has changed so much in how I share it and what parts of it I share. So I'll give it a go, but even to me, it's like, wow, I see that differently. So basically, I mean, it can be a long story because there's so much in it. So I'll try and keep it brief, but, you know, hopefully give out the information that'll make it make sense.
You can take as long as you like.
Oh, cool. All right. Thank you. My story really begins when I came to Canada when I was age 11. So I migrated to Canada. I was born in Kenya, and my parents were thinking, you know, they want a better life for myself and my older brother. So as we were growing up, they were always thinking that, because Kenya is a third world country, right? The healthcare system, the education system is very poor. Safety is a big issue, even till today. Actually, my cousin from there just moved from there to the US. And his number one thing, even in the middle of COVID, is moving to the US. And when I spoke to him, his number one thing is safety. Safety is a huge issue there. So my parents planned for this, and they saved up, and they, you know, did their research, and Vancouver seemed the city that they wanted to bring us in. So we came here, and I was age 11. And I remember very vividly how different it was right from the day I got here. Besides, obviously, the beautiful city that this was, and my first time seeing and touching snow and all that was really cool. But right away, I went into grade 6 here in the elementary school, and I started getting bullied a lot. And I didn't understand it at all because I had never experienced bullying back home. And I was being bullied for, you know, looking differently and being brown. There was 2 brown kids in like a school of 700 students. Talking differently, dressing differently, and so on. And I could not understand it at all. Like, what is going on? What is going on? Now, all this I've started to understand, you know, only in my 30s, what was really going on. But back then, it was just like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't know what to do. So I talked to my parents who didn't know what to do themselves. They were facing their own culture shock. I talked to my friends' parents, teachers, and so on. And basically the message I heard, or at least the one I remember, is that, it's like, that's just part of school. Like, everyone goes through it, right? And to me, it just didn't land. It was like, you're telling me I should get dressed and go get bullied? I'm going to say no to that. It doesn't really make sense. And so I started skipping school a lot because it just didn't make sense to me to get dressed and go get bullied. Now, that led me to hang out with kids that skip school and kind of get into a little bit of trouble here and there. And that continued till I went into high school in grade 8. And I continued getting bullied. And one of the things that I didn't realize was happening in my mind was that I was thinking there's something unlikable about me. I didn't see it as a thought. I was like, there must be something unlikable if people don't like me. Like, it makes perfect logic sense to me. And I went with that. And I didn't realize that in a very subtle way, I was starting to think of what would be likable. That's what I need to do, right? And so I started getting into fights. Like there was this one specific time I got bullied and I just got so angry and I fought back. This aggression that was built inside of me came out. And there was people cheering me. Like there was a few voices going, yeah, Shenan, stand up for yourself. That's it. And I didn't realize again till in my mid-30s that I translated that as, this is something likable. You're getting cheers for this. You got to do more of this. And so I did. I started getting into a ton of fights. And so in the first school, grade 8, really, it goes from grade 8 to 12, high school in Burnaby, the city I'm in. So the first school I went to, I got into so many fights. I got suspended 3 times and expelled. Got sent to a next school, got into so many fights, got suspended 3 times and expelled, and that continued to a few schools until I got sent to a alternate school. The district basically was saying, this kid is uncontrollable. We really don't want him in any of our schools. You got to send him to the alternate school where all the bad kids are, right? And in this school, and I was 14, so within 1 year, all of this has happened. And in this school, basically were kids similar to me, people that were just not able to be controlled, kids that were waiting to go into youth correctional facility, coming out of youth correctional facility. And I was introduced to the bad bunch, as they called it, right? So I remember going into the washroom even when I was age 14 there and seeing kids doing crystal meth, heroin, and just doing drugs very freely. And so I was kind of introduced to this environment and atmosphere. I was still hell-bent on being likable. So I was like, what do I do to be likable? And I got involved in doing drugs. At 14 years of age, I started doing cocaine. And it was sort of just like, yeah, you're just doing it here and there as a party thing, you know, on the weekends and hanging out with the kids that are doing it. I didn't see that I was being ushered into this lifestyle in a subtle way. But that continued till age 15 when I just felt really misunderstood. Like every time I got in trouble by the school teachers or principal's office, I felt that there was a lot of speech, lecturing going on. You know, Shenan, don't do this, do that. Shenan, don't do this, do that. If you do this, it will lead you here. If you do that, it will lead you here. But nobody was asking me, like, what's going on within you? Like, what, you know, let's draw something out of you. So I got sick of hearing that and I decided to drop out. I was like, the school system's not for me. I seem to always get in trouble and anything I do is just not right. So I'm out. And after I decided that and I told this to the principal, he pulled me in the office. I remember he was a really nice principal. He was doing his best, and I can see that now. His best was lecturing from his beautiful knowledge. And he pulled me into this office one time before I left, and he went, can we have just like an off-a-record conversation? I said, yeah, sure, what's up? Well, actually, it was like, yeah, sure, what's up? I wasn't listening. But he said to me, you know, I just want to be straight up with you, Shenan. Life is really hard out there. And if you don't have an education, you're not going to succeed. That's the reality of the world, right? You need an education or there is no success out there. And to be honest, he was right. This was late 99. Education was respected. The paradigm was different, of course, right? Now, I heard that as I won't be successful if I don't continue school. And success to me meant money, nothing else. So I won't make money if I don't go to school. So I dropped out still, and I went ahead with my plan. But I got so insecure about my financial future that I just thought about money. And I got involved with the boys that were selling drugs. I was always around them, so I started selling drugs. And I made money. Like, I remember when I was 16 thinking, haha, principal, I make more than you, you know? This arrogant young boy. But what I didn't realize again was that I was getting so deeply involved in that lifestyle that it was just, it was the only reality for me. Those kind of people, that kind of lifestyle, being that way. Mind you, I made some of my best friends in that era, you know, really good-hearted people. Like my best friend that I still have to this day and still is my best friend. I met him when I was 14. He was 15, and we're still best friends.
Nice.
So misunderstood kids, again, just labeled as bad kids and doing whatever they thought was making sense. And till I was 18 years of age, that continued. I got more and more involved in that lifestyle of selling drugs and doing drugs and so on, because I had no school anymore, right? And I made lots of money. And then when I was 18, one of my best friends, he was Scottish, he got shot dead. And I just went into this deep spiral of depression, and I just couldn't see that coming. It really threw me off. It was actually my first heartbreak, I call it, because it really broke my heart. And one thing I didn't realize, that the party drug I was doing, cocaine, that was once in a while when you're drinking and, you know, with the kids that were doing it, now became a real numbing agent because I didn't know how to deal with these emotions. So I did that regularly after he died. And I was really angry at the world. This is really unfair, and why me, and that kind of attitude, just feeling victimized. And I became even worse and went deeper into that lifestyle and just became kind of like a bad guy, bullying people, robbing people, beating people, stabbing people. That went on. And in that life, you know, the circle I was in, the environment I was in, most of the conversation was around, how do you make money? Like, that's the most important thing. You know, coming from, of course, this insecure space, but how do you make money? How do you make money? How do you make money? So whether it was selling drugs to getting involved in doing home invasions to getting involved in selling guns, and that was the next thing that I found out. And that was the next thing that I found out. So I kept doing that. And from 18 to 23, 18, that was a really bad phase for me because I was so confused. I was so hurt. I felt so victimized. And I really didn't care about anybody around me, whether it was my family or people on the street. I was just very inconsiderate. So I was harmful to many, many, many people in many, many ways, whether it's physical harm or being a very manipulative person to try and, you know, sell my drugs so I can make cash. And between those years, you know, without going so much into detail, I got involved in too much gangster behavior, really, you know, getting into fights and carrying a gun. So there's shootings happening, stabbing people, getting stabbed. I've been stabbed several times myself. And until 23, I remember there was just this kind of fog, right? You're living through this fog. Now, one of the things I realized very recently was I didn't know that I was chasing money so much because I thought that money would bring me things, you know, happiness, contentment. It would get me out of that life. I will do it until this, just the next score, right? That That was what me and my friends used to do. After this score, we'll quit. And in the year 2004, I was 22 years old. I remember making 350 grand the first 4 months, tax-free, and not feeling the feeling that I thought I was looking for. You know, like what I thought this would bring me all I wanted, and it's not here. And I kid you not, like I had the best clothes and I was driving the nice car, and I just was sick of what was in my mind. So I actually wanted to kill myself. And this is a current insight, actually. I used to carry a 44 Magnum. And this one night, I was just so sick of it all. I said, you know what, I'm just going to end it because this cocaine isn't working. It's not quieting my mind. And I walked down to the bushes because I was going to do it. And I remember thinking right before I'm doing it that I should maybe just do a practice shot, because if it doesn't end well, I'll end up a vegetable, and that's kind of worse. And I did a practice shot, and it was so loud that it rang my ears, and I literally popped out of my thinking.
Wow.
And I went, oh, I don't want to do this. And I actually, no kidding, Jacqueline, just discovered that that was wisdom speaking to me. I discovered this 3 weeks ago from today. I'm taking a course with Dr. Bill right now. And in that class, I went, wow, that was wisdom talking. So that was my turning point, 2004. And I didn't do it, of course, but life wasn't getting any better. I kind of just went back into that world. 2005, about a year later, my parents' house was shot up and they were inside. And that shook me. I woke up and I started to think, oh my God, how did I get here from, last thing I remember is just being bullied and trying to be likable. Like what happened from age 13 to now 23. And so it woke me up to a degree where I started to really be a little bit more considerate. I started considering the things, like I said before, my parents have brought me here for a better life. What am I doing? This is what I brought to their home. I'm seeing their faces, and they were just very disturbed. So I said to myself, I'm gonna quit this life. I'm gonna get out of this life. One of the things that didn't make sense to me, that still doesn't, is that nobody was injured. There were 6 shots fired in the home. They were inside. My brother was inside. Nobody was injured. And I just took it as like it's a sign. Here's your kind of last chance, you know. I used to describe it before as, you know, the universe is throwing pebbles at you. Here's your best friend dead. Here's another friend dead. And here's a rock, because you're not listening to the pebbles. Here's your parents' house shot up, and the next one will be a boulder. It'll take you out. So I decided to get out of that life. But it took me 4 years after deciding that night to actually get out, because I didn't know how to be civilized. I didn't know how to be in a world that was not that world. So I kept trying to get jobs and got fired, and you know, just didn't know how to keep a job. I got fired from 6 jobs in 2 years, because I would show up drunk, or I would not show up, or I would show up arrogant and late and try and do things my way. And they were just like, no, you're fired. So it's really humbling, but at the same time, again, confusing, because every time I got fired, I kept going back into that life. That's all I knew. It's really difficult too, because getting a job that pays you 25 grand a year minimum wage, when you can make that in a week or two, it's like, I'm going to go in that life. But eventually, of course, I got out, and it was 2008 that my girlfriend at the time was getting out of university, and she was actually telling me, you know, you should get your own business, because you seem to like to want to be your own boss. You're not giving your full in these jobs. If you have your own business, you're your own boss, you make your own schedule. And it made a lot of sense to me to do that. So that's when we started looking at Tim Hortons and, you know, franchises. I started working at Tim Hortons to own one. Wanted to own one and tried to own one, but of course they said no right away, because I had no record, right? I had no financial history. I had a really bad record and everything. Yeah, go ahead.
The English people might not know what Tim Hortons is.
Right. Okay. Good point. So Tim Hortons is a cafe and bake shop franchise here in Canada. Basically a quick service restaurant, just like McDonald's. But it's much, much bigger than McDonald's. It's the biggest one here. It's literally like a religion here. You can't even talk bad about Tim Hortons loudly on the streets. People will look at you different because they love it. And so the reason we wanted to get into that, like to me in my head, it was clear that it was a cash cow, right? It is a cash cow, just like McDonald's is. And that was the only thing. So you can see what I couldn't see before, that I was still after money. It wasn't anything else. It's like, oh, it's a cash cow. We'll go after this one. And so, of course, trying to get it, we didn't get it because, like I said, there was really no history, financial history, work history, really bad driving record because I've gotten caught stealing cars and doing this and doing that. So they were like, no, you're not on the list here. And I remember I was quite offended. Like my ego was bruised. I was like, I'm going to get a Timmy's now because they said no. And I had this like, I'm going to get it no matter what drive, blind drive. And went to work at Timmy's, spoke to a franchise owner. And I remember having this conversation with her going, how do I get in? Like, how do I get one? And she basically said, well, they're looking for people that are not, they know how to manage others. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for anybody with money. Everyone has money. But if you know how to manage people, if you know how to manage a quick service restaurant, you're more likely to get a chance. And I said, well, how do I do that? And she goes, well, you got to go work at one. That's your best bet. And I was so arrogant. I remember thinking, no, I don't want to work at one. I just want to own one. I don't want to work minimum wage and put on a hairnet and do that. I'm above that, And eventually, I think my girlfriend at the time was the one that kind of brought me back down to earth, going, no, this is the way to do it. And so I did. I went and applied at one, and from day one told the owner, I want to own a Timmy's, and this is why I'm doing it. And he said the same. You're gonna have to learn the ropes. So he employed me, and I did. I put on a hairnet, started serving coffee, and did the baking, and minimum wage downtown Vancouver. Did the midnight shifts for 6 months, and then I became a supervisor, and then assistant manager, and then managed the restaurant for him. And that whole process took about 4 years. And in that process was a really humbling process for me, because I was still so arrogant, right? I was still thinking like I had this self-image that I was living from. That was my center that I related to the world with. So don't mess with me. I'm Shenan, blah, blah, blah. And here I am serving coffee, and people would go, I said 2 cream, not 1 cream, right? Because that's how they talk to minimum wage workers. Thankfully, that's changed over the years, but back then that was the case still. And I remember literally thinking like, I will kill you right now if you talk to me like this. And going into the freezer and punching boxes and just getting my anger out and coming back, but not quitting, because I was telling myself, I want to own one. So that was part of the humbling process. But another piece was I worked with these Filipino girls. A lot of Filipino girls worked at Tim Hortons back then. I don't know how it is now. But we used to talk at break, and we're co-workers. And they used to tell me how they're here and they're working 3 jobs. They used to work at A&W or McDonald's and Timmy's, and gather money and send it back home because their parents were ill or their kids were there. And I remember thinking, like, I was ashamed of myself. Like, wow, these people are making an honest day's work and living an honest life, and here I am trying to cut my way through. It really, really woke me up to look at this life and compare to what you're doing and how you're being Shenan. So that was part of me being very humbled by my surroundings as well. I find it really funny that you're just placed in the perfect spaces to humble you every time, and I didn't see that one till years later, but it made so much sense to go, it was perfect for me, for the level of arrogance I had. And so anyways, I did that. And 4 years later, you know, went back to Timmy's and went, this is what we've been doing. I've been managing this restaurant for this owner. And here's what I know about it. And I've learned so much about food cost and labor cost and how to manage it all to make a profit and run the restaurant properly. I knew all their products. I was the fastest sandwich maker. And the owner vouched for us and said, yeah, he's been doing this for my restaurant and it's been good. So they actually approved me for my own Timmy's, which I started in the end of 2011. I was 29 years old and I could not tell you the feeling I had. That was going from trying to get out of a gangster life that I'm almost going to get killed if I don't. I really see no other hope, to getting out of it itself being an accomplishment that even my parents and family members were saying that itself is pretty good. Like, you're going to be alive at least. Don't know if you're going to make it in life, but at least you're out of that life. To getting a Timmy's and everyone going, wow, that's pretty cool. And myself thinking like, I'm a grade 10 dropout and I got to this position here. I felt extremely accomplished, right? I got the cash cow, I'm approved. And I really didn't think I would make so much or anything out of myself. I thought I would just kind of pitter patter through life because of the lack of education I had, which was in my head as a requirement to make it in life. The kind of experience I had lived through, which was just gang related, didn't really know anything outside of that. So again, that was in my head as a lack, as a unworthiness that I carried. And then when I got into Tim Hortons and owned it, I went, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. Opened the Timmy's, there was 52 staff under me, had a nice penthouse suite, the cars were there, the place was doing over $2 million a year. First year, did 2.1, got awards for it, milestone award and double milestone award. And I have to say that the restaurant did really well the first year only because I had all this experience, right? First year, usually people don't do that well because there's a lot of waste and a lot of practice. But I had got the labor cost and food cost knowledge, so I did that. And things were well. Like, I couldn't say that I would even dream of a life like that. So it was really good. Second year of ownership. Now, this is where it gets really odd because they signed a 20-year lease minimum. That's how you get in. So here I am, signed a 20-year lease and taking pictures of the lease. Oh, I made it. Second year, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it was really odd because I was like, God, I'm so confused. I don't know how to get out of this. I know I don't want to do this. I'm second year in. I've signed a 20-year lease. How the hell do I get out? Now, I didn't know why I wanted out, but there was just this feeling that was like a disconnect. You know, I don't feel connected to myself. I don't feel fulfillment. And I was kind of looking for it everywhere. And so I literally, I remember one night took inventory, like, Shenan, look at your life. You've got a business that's doing over $2 million a year. You're living well. People are proud of you. You didn't think you could get this far, and you did. And try and be grateful about it, you know? Don't be so selfish. But there was something inside of me going, I don't want to do this business. I just don't. And there was this voice trying to convince me to settle. Now, this is 2013, 2 years into ownership. And I had friends that were getting coached. They had a life coach. I didn't know what a life coach was. I thought it was a scam. Like, that's what, you talk to somebody and you pay them money? Nah, I'm good. I have a good gig going here. Now they seemed happier, right? They had more time for golf and fishing. Their relationships were doing well. Their health was doing well. And every time I seen them, I kind of was curious because I was like, my relationships are suffering. I'm always at work and I have no time or energy to give to relationships. My health was suffering because I was at Timmy's all day, eating Timmy's all day. And so I was really curious. I was like, well, who is this guy that you're working with? And so they introduced me. And I hired him after a couple of conversations. And he started asking me these powerful questions that I've never been asked. Like, he created a container. It was quite direct. He wasn't strategic. He was just, let's get right to who you are. And one of the things I remember him asking me is, what does success mean to you? And I'd never thought of it, right? Because success meant money to me from how I said when I dropped out of school till then. Until he asked me that question, I never thought about it. I remember thinking, success means money. Next question. And he's going, no, slow down. Is it really what it means? Do you not consider relationships or self-care or any of these things? And I went home just very reflective, going, man, there's something going on. And that's when I realized, literally from, I think it was our third or fourth session, I realized that I had gotten a Timmy's, but I hadn't changed my mind. My mind was the same. I was the same person. So I'd replaced this drug dealing life that brought me money with a Tim Hortons life that brought me money. It was money that I wasn't considering anything. Just because Tim Hortons was accepted in society as a legit business, I was celebrated, and drug dealing is not accepted in society, so I was demonized. Underneath, it was the same thing. That was a huge realization for me to go, man, I'm still the same person chasing the same thing. This is just a redecoration, really. So I got even more disconnected to Tim Hortons and even more wanted to be out of there. It was agony for me, because for 6 months I remember going in every day. You're the owner, you got to show up like, hey, how's it going, guys? What are we gonna do today? Because everyone's looking up to you. But internally going, God, I got to get out of this place. My relationship with my girlfriend at the time suffered a lot, because we were on the same vision. We're going to get a Timmy's and we're going to do the thing and then we'll enjoy life. And now I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And she was like, what the hell's going on with you, right? What was really tough was that I didn't know what was going on within me, so I couldn't explain it to her. She was literally like, just talk to me. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I just know I don't want to do this. So unfortunately, we fell apart. We bumped heads a lot. Obviously, our visions crossed, and it became really toxic between us, and we fell apart, and that relationship ended. But long story short, I decided to give up the Timmy's. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I didn't want to do that. So I gave it up, and I broke the lease. And then I took about 6 months off. And I remember going hiking and kayaking and alone, just, reconnecting with myself. Didn't know that's what I was doing, but I was really missing that. And I was still working with this coach, and he impacted me so much that I started to think, I want to do coaching, because we just had conversations. That there was nothing else. It was conversation that impacted me and changed my entire life, helped me see my past more, helped me see deeper within myself, helped me see how I was riding on cultural or parental beliefs. There was no me there. Genuine me wasn't there. I was like, I want to do this. And so I explored it 2013, practiced it a bit, and I fell in love with it completely. I worked with this one woman, one of my first clients, actually. Very quick story. I worked for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, we kind of do this like exit conversation, right? Like a review. What was helpful? What was insightful for you? And I'm expecting her to say, okay, here's what I learned, and here's what I can do, and here's what I'm clear on. But she slowed down. She got really quiet, and she told me, Shenan, me and my family sort of broke up about 14 years ago because of a big family fight. And I haven't talked to my sister for 14 years because of that family fight. And next weekend, we're meeting for dinner because of the coaching work that you and I have done. And I literally just like started crying on the spot, because I felt this like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. And I was sold. I was like, I want to be a coach. That's what I'm going to do. It's 2014, started my business in coaching, got into coaching, met a whole bunch of really cool people, a whole bunch of really cool approaches. And it was good. It was going good. I was learning lots. 2015, I ran into the name Michael Neal, as I think everyone has run into, because he's so much out there. Michael Neal. Great coach and super coach and all of that. And so I started to try and follow him. Like, what can I learn from him that I can bring back to my clients? I read his book, Super Coach, the first one, and it was full of how-to-dos. It was really helpful. He himself now, I've heard him say that he's not really into that book because he's obviously more into the principles. But for me, it was like, wow, this is such a great book, so many strategies, and I loved the book. So I wanted to get more out of him, strategy, techniques that I can bring to my clients. But when I followed him, he had new videos on, and I didn't know what he was talking about. Nothing. But I kept listening to him. And every time I went with a pen and paper listening to him, and my pen and paper were still empty at the end of this video, I didn't get anything, but there was something there. And we talked about the feeling earlier. That was obviously what was pulling me. In one of his videos I was watching, he talked about Dr. Bill Pettit. And he was talking about how Dr. Bill Pettit went into this institute, this mental institute, where people were not allowed out in society. They were a mental hospital. And he spoke there for 2 days. I remember this story very vividly. He spoke there for 2 days. There was a man that had schizophrenia for 47 years. You must have heard this story. And he was talking to walls and laughing at the wall, but he heard something. And he heard something, and he realized he was making it all up. And within 6 weeks, he was checked out. All his tests were done, and he was checked out and back into society. Michael's telling the story, and I'm going, bullshit. There's no way that this is possible. This is complete bullshit. Now, in my mind, no joke, I didn't really realize how judgmental I was, but I was thinking, this Dr. Bill sounds like a total fraud. Like, I'm going to find out that this guy's a fraud. So I started searching Dr. Bill and came into his videos. And one of the first videos I seen, is such a nice memory. One of the first videos I seen, he didn't even have proper lighting, right? You could see a silhouette of him. He's stuttering more than he's talking. His phone goes off, so he's like, wait, guys, and he's like, and I'm thinking, this guy's Dr. Bill the Great, right? I'm thinking, yeah, right. Couldn't just hear him. I was just like so judgmental. I was going into the kitchen because I was eating. He was on YouTube in my household, in my living room. I brought back my food and I was eating. And he started talking about this video I was watching. He talks about this young man that was extremely mad at his principal. And he brought a gun to school because he wanted to kill his principal. So I was interested now. I was like, oh, what is this story? And again, just like this Dr. Bill guy, I'm not really into, but this story sounds all right. And so he says the young man brought a gun. And when the bell rang, recess time or lunchtime, he walked down the hall and he walked straight to the principal and put 5 in his chest, killing the principal in front of everyone and obviously going to jail for it. He was being interviewed in jail. And the interviewer asks him, what was going through your mind? And the young guy says, I was really mad. I wanted to kill him. And the interviewer goes, no. What was going through your mind right before you pulled the trigger? And the kid goes, oh, you know what? It's funny. I was hearing these gentle voices saying, you don't have to do this. And as I walked closer, the voice said, here's the side door. You can take it right now. You don't have to do this, you know. And he goes, I thought that was doubt. And Dr. Bill goes, that's not doubt. That's wisdom. And I fell apart right there. I was in tears for 30 minutes. Just couldn't grasp what I was experiencing. This was my first experiential into the principles. And you know why? Because when I heard that, it took me immediately back to when I was doing a home invasion. And I remember hearing voices saying, you don't have to do this before going into the house. And I remember hearing a voice saying, you can just say your leg is injured, because I had injured my leg earlier that day. You can go sit in the car. And I remember thinking, that's just me being a wimp. That's just doubt. And I went and did that home invasion. So when I heard Dr. Bill, I just went, oh my God, that's wisdom. That's what wisdom is. And I was sold. I went from this Dr. Bill to Dr. Bill the Great. Became a super fan of his, loved him so much. He's such a great teacher, taking his course right now. And I didn't look back. That was me into the principles. I literally was just sold into this like experience. And that was late 2016. Ever since then, it's just been the principles, getting deeper involved in it, getting more insight into the impersonal. And then I didn't even realize how it's going to lead me, but now I'm working with a bunch of different CEOs and senior executives in UK and Canada. Went back into schools and working alongside police officers and teachers to just share my story, but threaded with the principles, of course. Working with youth at risk privately, volunteer, all my volunteer time goes there. And it's a beautiful life.
Wow, Shenan, that's absolutely amazing. I'm glad you told us the long version. It's amazing. I'm wondering, before we open it up, what happened to your version of what success is?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. It has changed over time since I got that first insight, how much I wasn't considering anything else but money. To be perfectly direct, I've wrestled with it because I tried to figure it out. You know, I need to figure it out. I need to come with a better definition to this, and then as soon as I have a better definition, I will relate to the world from that. So I went from that to Stephen Covey's seven habits of highly successful people. He named, you should consider health and relationship and this. And I went, all right, that's my 5, right? To that falling away too, because that was just thought. To just coming to a space of success right now. Even right now, I don't think I'm clear on it, but I can say that I've just stopped looking into it. Success to me right now is, am I just happy? Am I happy in my conversations? Am I happy having conversations, watching movies with my mom and dad? So that's what it is. There's no real sophisticated definition of it right now.
Love it.
I love that, you know. I love that. I just wanted to add that that was one of my biggest battles. What is success? And then I realized success is just a word. So it could mean anything. Nice. And it could change at any moment, and it could reshape itself to my feelings and to my thoughts. But it's just a word. So if I just take away that word, then I don't have that problem of what is success, if that makes sense. And yeah, I just love exactly what you said. I love that, man.
I like the way you put it too. Yeah, it is just a word. We can build on that word and create more stale thinking around it.
Most definitely.
Go on. I was just gonna say that word success. That's what I was gonna. I'm glad you asked that question, MamaJ, because that is something that you don't even see it at the time that you put in what you put into that word. Because for me, success meant basically the same thing, and I didn't realize till way deep into the principles what that even meant, or how I looked at that, or how it just went in one direction. And I've got this story that I always tell, that when I got this understanding when I was in prison, and all the time when I go to prison, I'd have pictures of my family, my children, and the officers would come in, people I talked to would come in, other inmates, they were, yeah, you got a beautiful family, you know, and I'd be like, yeah. Even officers are walking like, oh, is that your family? Oh, you got a beautiful family, you know? And I'll just be like, yeah. And only when something, I had a little insight, and it showed me that's where my success was. That's where all my riches, and that's where everything what I've been chasing outside would look like money or the end game. Like you, like so much of your story resonated, like the end game. I'm gonna be good, but as soon as I've made this, and then I've got this, and then it's gonna be good. But just knowing that wasn't a success. If I had nothing, because when I was in prison, I had nothing basically, but my family was still shining on a wall. But ain't there enough everybody to come in myself to comment on. So that must be my success. I'm chasing something that I'm probably never going to obtain. And my success has been staring at me all the time. All the time. And I love that answer, because success is just being, for me, only when you said it, it's just like where I am right now, just being happy right now. And then I can see I'm a success. Because somebody said that to me the other day. I want you to come and do a talk as an example of a successful person. And I was like, no, not me, I'm not. But then when I took a step back and kind of looked, I said, yeah, look, because I used to come from the same sort of lifestyle. I've totally flipped that around. So then now that's viewed as a success. No matter what I'm chasing, apart otherwise from that, I'm not earning the big bucks, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not taking 5 holidays a year. That doesn't denote success. And that's something that I've slowly come to wrestle with in myself. That it's about the actions that I take and the feeling that I get that denotes where my success is. And that success in my heart, that feeling that I get when I look at my children, I look at the pictures of them on holiday or just us together. That's where I get my success from. And it doesn't, I don't think it comes from an intellectual place. It's that intelligence place, that natural. And I love the way when you said success, how you saw it. That's the power of words. That one word there's 14 of us on this call, that could mean 14 different things to 14 different people. But I'm using a sentence and everyone's relating to it and thinking it means what it means to them. But yeah, I just love that. I could talk about what you just said for hours, Shenan, man, but I just want to touch on that and give other people a chance, man. But that was a beautiful story. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to hear yours too. I would love to connect with you outside of this some other time and just share. That would be great. Yeah, we wrestle with that word in society so much. So many of us.
So much. I think most people have that at some level. How are you guys doing? Feel free to chime in, ask questions, share what you want to share. Anne-Marie.
It just struck me while you were talking how success is often wrapped up in materialism. Our society thinks of success as like, you've got to have money, you've got to have 5 holidays a year, you've got to have a nice car, you've got to have the fancy this, that and the other, #1 fashions and all the labels that go with the different fashion accoutrements and all that sort of thing. And success really to me is just sort of being happy and to be at peace with yourself.
No.
I think that is. Do you know what's thing about your story, Shenan? Because I had that same feeling when I was doing whatever I was up to. I had money, I had nice cars, nice clothes, going wherever I want to go. But I thought it was the act that I was doing that it just didn't feel right. And because of what I'm doing, and I'm selling drugs, so that's why this feeling's like that. Always aspiring to what you've done, to start a legal business, to then that'd be but then you saying that even on the flip side, the inside hasn't changed. You've just changed one thing for another. And for me, I thought that the feeling would change, but I see that now, even if I was to do that, it wouldn't change. But just to say that you've been through that and you saw it and it never changed, and you still had that feeling inside you saying, no, there's something not right here. There's something, there's more. And it's like that, I love that little pebbles thing, the throw the pebbles, then the rocks. The next thing you get a sledgehammer in your head. And it's like, whoa, do you know what? I'm gonna listen, please. But yeah, I've had so many of them littered throughout my life. And even what you said about the wisdom part, I've had so many little voices whisper to me when I'm about to do shit I'm not meant to do. And the first go-to is, that's coward talk, man. That's waste, man. No. Yeah. Same thing. I hurt my toe earlier in the day. Yeah, just say your toes hurting, man. Tell him that the toes hurting. He'll listen to you and he'll just say, yeah, you might as well just go. But no, that's waste man talk. And don't listen to it. If I was to look into that more often, my wisdom's being there much more often than I would have thought. Much more often.
Same. Yeah.
And even to touch on the gun incident, your wisdom's actually telling you to fire a gun.
Yeah, right.
Wisdom's instructing you to fire a gun. But who knew?
Yeah.
I
know, right? That one threw me back. It was like, whoa, practice shot. Hey, nice one, wisdom.
Yeah, you've got this far. Like, what can we do? I know, tell him to fire a shot. I was just going to touch on what Anne-Marie said there about success being a peace of mind. And what came to me then was that when you have peace, success looks different. So, you know, it has its own flavor, doesn't it? Because it in a peaceful state, wherever you are in life, I guess maybe success doesn't even become a question, but it starts to have a different look anyway.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. You know, one of the more, like, you know how you sometimes get insight, but you don't really realize it, and then you see how much things have changed, and you go, oh wow, when did that happen? And one of those things for me was my relationship with my parents. So I realized that since age 11, of course, when you're 11, you're 13, you're just a little kid. And I pretty much became disconnected with them when I was 13. Oh, you don't understand me. You're also like the world, right? And I didn't actually reconnect with them till age 32. I didn't realize that till a few years ago. Because from age 13 to 32, I was trying to figure myself out, chase money, be with the boys, whatever made sense to me. And I remember one day I was at Timmy's and I was having a busy day, and my mom brought me homemade food. Right. So I'm at the drive-through, and the drive-through is, as you know, it's like every 30 seconds there's a car and you're boom, 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 boom. And she's over there calling me, and I went up there, and she went, I brought you homemade food. I just made this. And I went, can't you see I'm busy? And I just, you know, like, oh, get out of here. I didn't realize that how much that would have hurt her, you know. And I realized that years later to go, oh my God, that's what I was up to. They never disowned me. They had many opportunities. They found guns under my bed. It's very easy to disown a kid like me. I've made it easy for somebody to do that, but they never did. And it wasn't until I got out of Tim Hortons and took that break and then reconnected with them that I realized I don't even know these people. Like, I'm just getting to know them at age 32, 33. So grateful that I had that opportunity. And I say that because that to me is success as well. You know?
What would you say to your 11-year-old self?
Oh, wow. I don't know, you know. I mean, the cliche, don't believe your thoughts. That's always helpful. I'm working with these young kids right now. Some of them are 19, 20, and some when we do after school programs with other teachers or after school groups, they're 13 and 14. And as they start to get a little bit of understanding of how there is, like, they are not their thoughts, how much they get it, how quick they get it, it surprises me. It's like, wait a second, do you really get it? And they do. They literally just get it. What I would tell my 11-year-old self is, you don't have to believe everything you think. I think that was a big one for me, because I believed I had to be likable, and I believed I was unworthy, unlikable. I could literally pinpoint in my head how it went. I'm unlikable, and, you know, created 10 years of my life from one thought. And if I waited 3 minutes or 5 minutes, I probably would have had another thought in a different 10 years. Who knows?
Wow.
And that's another thing of your story, Shenan, I picked up on when you said about that thing about being liked. For me, I mirror that so much, because in every environment, I would subconsciously look out for what it took to be liked. And if I could meet that remit, then I'm meeting it. And
Totally, yeah.
I'll relentlessly, and I'm not realizing I'm doing it. Then when I go into another room, I'm seamlessly slipping into the requirements that I feel need to be met to be liked. I'm not even realizing I'm slipping from 2 or 3 different, whatever I'm seeing in the moment, that's what I need to be. And I'm trying to give them what I need. And that's all the time taking me further away from myself. But it's coming in all different guises. And when I see this principle, I have to sort of see them individually to break them down. It's like the judgments I have to see them. Or if I didn't, like you said, the blind spots, I'll just continue with them, not knowing that they're there. Saying, yeah, everything else is thought, but that over there, oh, that part's real.
Yes,
But
yes, I can relate to that.
I have to look at it now and then dissect it and then find out that it's not real. It is just like all the others. And then it goes into the thought sack. But until that point, it's always real. But we're so seamless in changing and 1 minute to another. Yeah, to address them, I have to look at them all individually. But that's another bit that I relate to so much. So much.
Yeah, I think our environment makes it really easy to do that. Even after, as I got into coaching, that was like, oh, I'm a coach now. That's the avatar, you know?
Exactly.
Another costume to wear.
That's right. That's why I asked you that question, because you could feel the heartfeltness in the desire to be a coach and the desire to impact people in a positive way. But one could easily wear that as the next suit and then look for, well, okay, well, this is also a cash cow. How do I make this cash cow, and how do I do that, and then how do I become this, you know, like you say, this avatar that is a life coach. So it doesn't really the job, what's it called? The occupation doesn't really matter in a way. It's like how you wear that suit that matters.
Yeah, you know, it's such a good point, because I did that, right? When I got into coaching, that was a thing. Like you've got to be professional and you've got to lead the conversation, make sure they don't take lead of the conversation. All these things you learn in the coaching world. And what's been most impactful is just to show up as a human being. Like when I'm having my conversations with anyone now, it's like we're just having a chat. And you know what's funny, Jacqueline? That's the exact opposite of what they teach you in the coaching world. Yeah. Don't have a coffee chat. Have an impactful conversation. I see a coffee chat is so much more impactful, because we're just like, what do we want to talk about today? We're just two human beings talking. I'll share with you what I know, but you're going to share things that I'm going to learn from too. And it's remarkable how the impact just happens. I used to define insight as like, wow, I see something fresh, you know? And even that has changed for me, because nowadays I define insight as, you're not going to know you're going to have an insight. You're just going to feel good. And a few months later or a few years later, you're going to look back and wonder when that changed. Like, that's a genuine insight, you know? And that's been happening with people that I work with, whether it's just me having these chats with the youth or working with business owners. And they come back and say, I don't know when this changed. That's a genuine insight, I would say. Just keep having the lighthearted chats. That's the key. There's no, what do you need to work on today? So yeah, it's a good point that you bring up.
That job comes with the ego desires to know that we've had impact.
Yes.
And then that's lost. Like you're already looking in the wrong direction. It's the ego that wants the acknowledgement. Oh yeah, you had impact, or you've changed that life. Like so many people, you know, who've said to me, oh, I don't even know when this happened, you know, but I'm doing this now. And I want to go, yeah, that was, do you remember that conversation we had? But of course, that's just my ego wants acknowledgement for their insight, which is just absolutely rubbish. But you could get addicted to that quite easily. You could come to rely on that, and then you're sort of lost again.
Yeah, that's a. I mean, I relate to that so much as well, because that's happened with me. But you know, it's something you said actually, Jacqueline. I feel like, I don't know, I'm at the space right now where it just seems like everything is perfectly unfolding as it should. So I got into coaching, and one of my biggest realities that was just thought upon thought, I just didn't see it, was I have done so much bad. I'm going to now do good and balance out this made up measurement I've had in my life that I thought was a real measurement. You know, you're going to clean your sins by helping people instead of harming people. Sounds like a great ambition. Let's go for it. And when somebody's not helped, I just, oh my God, I'm just worthless, you know? And that changed. And this coaching avatar came through, and that changed into something. And we were texting each other, and you had said something. You said consciousness overrides judgment. Do you remember this? You sent me a video saying I'm the one who said it, but no, you were the one who said it. You were like, Shenan, you mentioned this. And I was like, no, you did. And it's true. We can judge our way through anything, but consciousness always overrides it. So there's this sense of trust on consciousness that also allows you to be judgmental, because it's going to be overridden anyways. Just play the role. Like, I've had that with my brother is a great example. You know, we see each other every day. We live together. So there's many things that can seem really annoying. Oh, he does this and he does that. And I'm sure vice versa for him. And there's more likely than not a judgmental view that takes the front seat until consciousness overrides it. Like, there's some love that comes in, or there's, you know, appreciation that comes in, compassion that comes in, and that judgment gets pushed aside. And it's not until that happens that I can see how much effort judgment takes. Until compassion takes the lead, and I'm going, well, why isn't this always leading? This is so much lighter. And eventually it does.
I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, for sharing here. And kind of gave me an insight as well, which kind of made me feel a bit emotional. I was like, wow, because I never realized that I made myself so easy to just be dropped from my family. Like, everyone could have just got rid of me and had a better life, easier, less stress, don't have to worry. And they didn't, do you know what I mean? And I didn't see that as deeply as I saw that a minute ago. I'm just like, wow, everyone actually stuck by me, and through my madness, through the craziness, they stuck by me and they're still here now. And another thing I kind of saw in your journey was that wisdom is so familiar. That's why when we hear it and that feeling arises in us, and that's why even your people and the young ones, I realize when they get it so quick, is because wisdom is it's so familiar. We have it, we use it every day, but we just don't realize what it is. Just like the doubt, you know what I mean? We always, and that was me, always put wisdom to doubt. I said, what? Wisdom sounds soft. I'm not soft like wisdom. Do you know what I mean? And
totally.
Wisdom always sounded soft, and I was like, I ain't that soft. Nah, it can't be wisdom. It has to be doubt. And I always tried to get rid of that side for me, but it was always there. And what I love, and I've recently kind of, not even recently, I'm lying, in about the last 2 years, I've seen my story as like a book of lessons. Because like you as well, every time I go into my story, I find something new. I see new insights. I see new things took position and stances to create that direction of thought or this direction. And I see that everything was how it was meant to be. And the reason why I can share how I share now is because of that road. And I no longer see it as a whole thing that I'm carrying that I did. Kind of just see it as a little book of lessons that I can just refer to. And I see that, cool. I feel like it's the same for you, because all that experience kind of plays into something that somebody can feel that you won't even know, because you probably wouldn't even know that what you said made me feel and look into something real different. Like, wow, my parents they're still here with me. Like, wow. And that probably weren't part of your main speech, but that done the world of change in my mind right now. Like I need to sit down with that one. And I realized that it's those moments that are the best moments. And that all just comes from experience. And that's the best teaching. And it's just like, well, as soon as you put that on the table and I look into that, I find something amazing in it. And yeah, I just wanted to thank you for that, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the way you've just articulated that. You're helping me look at my little book of reference now too, as you put it. New words for me.
I want to thank you as well. I'm just really touched by the power of the ordinariness, you know, like when we don't try and do something special or be an avatar or be, you know, and just sink into who we really are. That's where all of you have described your power coming from, you know. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, loved your sharing from your heart. I felt it. Thank you, Shenan, and everybody.
Thank you. It's great to see you again after so long too.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Marika. Lots and Shenan just took me back to when we first met 3.5 years ago in Vancouver, and where you were and where we are now, and the journeys. I just got to go and say that really resonated with me about the family, because there are times that we've all been through where you can disconnect with the ones that are the closest to you, and to see that you can now still go and see your mum and dad and watch a movie together is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Because what went on, their decision that they made to take you out of Kenya, they did that for all the right reasons. Pure innocence, not knowing what the outcomes were going to be. But for you to be now where you are, and you can go and see your mum and dad and catch a movie. Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. We do that often, you know, I sometimes joke around with it as like, this is exactly what you guys wanted. You just had to go through raising a really rough kid to get this. You thought you would come bring us to Canada and this would happen right away.
Persistence was key. Claire, did you want
my
to
dad
say?
laughs.
Claire, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Shenan, I just want to thank you for your beautiful story. You know, how you spoke from the heart. It just, yeah, so powerful. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've come to the end of this evening. It's been so wonderful to share this space with you, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you to Shenan for your beautiful story and beautiful way that you told the story. Very, very gentle, and I'm sure that we've all taken something away from that. So thank you, and thank you to the guys. Nice to see you, and thank you to Rob, who was only going to stay for 10 minutes. And see you all on the 20th of December for the Christmas special. Yay!
Party hats are essential. Party hats are essential.
Yeah, and bring your favourite milkshake or wine or coffee or whatever it is that you like to drink, and some snacks, and we'll make an evening of it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shenan.
Thank you, Shenan.